Welcome to the Light of Sirio podcast. My name is Dori Fari and I will speak with a realized spiritual master about his views on life and the topic of spirituality. So in this first episode, we will come to know more Master Sirio, who he is, where does he come from, how did he get into spirituality. So welcome, dear Master, in this podcast. Thank you for being here with me today, and thank you for sharing your time and your wisdom with us who listen to you. So to begin with, I would like to ask you to please tell us something about yourself, anything that you like.
Thank you for inviting me to this podcast. So, about myself. Physically, we are all born somewhere, in a certain place, at a certain time. So, we acquire a body which becomes a dress for our soul, for our spirit to work and act and acquire experience in this world. So, in my case, I was born on the 12th of May, 1952. It's to me long ago, now 71 years. 71 years in which so much has happened. I have been gathering so much experience, and I was lucky enough that my life took a certain turn, a certain direction. It began in a certain place, it continued in another place, and then again another place. So, in all these places, I have acquired impressions, experiences, emotions, which have directed me in a certain way, in what was in my destiny eventually. Because when we come in this world, we don't really know what's going to happen to our life. Nobody knows. But by and by, things unfold. Situations happen, meetings, things that change eventually the direction of our life, which was totally unexpected. So my life began to be very nice, to gather very nice impressions, very nice emotions right from the beginning. So I was very lucky.
You said that you were put to certain places, so that first you were at a place, now we know it was in South Italy, in Salento, and then you changed place. So how did it happen? Why did you change place and when?
We had an uncle who went to live in Milan with her children. And sometimes in the summer they would come back for holidays, because Salento was anyway beautiful for holidays at least, if not for work. So they came back and they began telling us, look, Milan is so great, it's so special. It's not like living in this isolated place where nothing happens, always the same. So we began, to be inspired, to be longing for a change. My father would have never gone away from that place because he was grown up and he liked very much the place. He liked very much his life. He was very attached to his house, to his work, to his everything. So eventually, my brothers went to Milan, my elder brothers, three. And then my mom and my sister. Then eventually me and my father, the last one. So we moved to Milan, one of the most busy working towns in Italy. So we moved there, and somehow our life became maybe more interesting, but kind of miserable also. Because that beauty which was in Salento, in Milan, you couldn't find it anywhere. So we moved to Milan, and our life changed completely, and we went through a series of new experiences, new situations in life, which anyway were very important to mold our character, at least my character, and made me experience new situations which in Salento I could have never experienced at the time. It directed me towards a quest for a meaning for life, a quest for truth. So that's how it happened. Because when you find yourself in a situation which is not so easy, which is not so pleasant, then you begin looking for something better, for something that gives meaning to life. Because just money, a house, food, a car won't really give for long meaning to life. It might give meaning for a certain period, but then you get tired of it. You want something more. At least in my case, I always wanted something more. So I kept looking for something. Whatever I had after some time wasn't enough anymore. So something else. What's this life all about? Why do we come in this world? What's the purpose of life? What are we here for? What is this body? What is this person? Am I this body? Am I? And no, anyway, what am I doing here? What is the purpose of my life? Where I have to go? What I'm meant to do?
So was this the experience that you got in Milan that brought you towards spirituality?
Well, you never know. I don't know if I had stayed in Salento, if a change like that would have happened to me. Because it's true that it's in our destiny to experience certain things. I had certain meetings. I met with certain people who directed me in a certain way, who inspired me in a certain way. I was encouraged to do certain things. It happened there. And because of these meetings, because of these friends, because of these situations, I gathered certain kinds of experiences. I began to be interested in what to do with my life, which direction to take. My mother was a strong Catholic. So their religion, to me, eventually did not answer my deeper needs. And when I began questioning the theology of that doctrine, of that belief system, I found it to be unacceptable for me because it wouldn't really have a logic to me. And so I refused it. So I thought, if this is God, then this God, I don't like it. I don't like him, or I don't like her, I don't like it. Because what this doctrine teaches, this theology teaches, it doesn't seem to be human. It doesn't seem to be a good man, this God. So I refused it. I refused the idea of God, and I became an atheist. And I went on looking, learning through my own experiences without fear of a judgment, without fear of going to hell or going the promise of going to paradise. I just refused all of this, and I thought I go through my life, I experience life, and see where I am led eventually.
So was there any particular experience that brought you this?
I came into a conflict with the idea that you, according to this teaching, you are born only once. You have only a chance. You're born once in a body, and according to the actions that you perform during the lifetime, which depend very much on where you're born, in which family you're born, which are the encounters that you do in your life, the people that influence your life because of a situation on which you have no control whatsoever, because you are born in a place, you don't choose it. You are sent there in that family. You have certain meetings that direct your life in a certain way. And eventually, because of this, you die. And if you have performed bad actions because of circumstances, then you go to hell for the rest of your life. Then,
Well, then at that point, it's not your life. for the rest of your life, because when you die, no,
No, for eternity.
for
I mean,
eternity, yes.
yes, you go to hell for eternity. That's the rest of your life. And also, the other thing is, they used to say, God is omnipotent. God is all powerful, omniscient, omnipotent, only this, only that, everything. Everything is moved, created, moved, and done by God. But then comes into play this Satan, which acquires more power than God, and everything that happens in this world eventually is moved and directed by this Satan. So Satan seems to have more power than God. So this God is omnipotent, is omniscient, is this and that. But what is this Satan? I, I began wondering. This seems like a crazy doctrine. Is this God omnipotent or not? And who is this Satan that comes into play and becomes more powerful than God? So this seems to be madness to me. So I thought, nothing to do with me, all of this. I just throw it out of the window and finish with it. So I go my way, I experience life and see where it will lead me. That's all.
So, what did you do after this? Did you do any certain action? Did you go any certain direction, or you were just flowing with life?
So what did they do? Eventually, boys, what did they do? They want to amuse themselves. So I also amuse myself with whatever was happening around myself at that time in that specific place where I was living. So I was a boy, I had friends, I was sharing time with them, amusing myself like all the boys do, making some sports also, but also meeting with friends and playing with them and doing things.
So, eventually, what happened in your life that directed you towards spirituality?
So life went on. So I met some people who gave me some very good teachings. I was very vain. I would like to dress myself in a nice way that would be, would make me special. And people, my friends, girls and friends, boys, they would like me because I was special. I was dressed very nicely. And so this vanity was very much with me. So I was dressing myself. But one day I became friend with a different boy. He was a Christian, but he was a very good Christian. And, one of the nice teachings of Jesus is that don't be vain. Don't have too much with you. Don't have 10 dresses that you have to choose. This, or this, what am I going to wear today? You just have one dress and just go your way. That's enough. So this boy was this kind of boy. He told me, you have so many dresses. I have only two. You, you have to think so much about what to wear when you're going to wear something. And I have two. So I choose either one or the other. And this was very impressive to me. I said, oh my God, this boy is free. I am not free. I am stuck in this vanity. So from then on, I decided I'm going to make my life more simple. Then what else? Then I had some friends, students who got involved into politics. My brother also, my other brother, Virgilio, eventually got involved into politics. He went to listen to a concert by John Baez, and then after this concert, there was a group led by Pannella, who was the leader of the radicals, who decided to make a march through several towns in northern Italy, means quite a few hundred kilometers. So every day they would go on marching and marching, and up they wanted to reach a certain place. So there was a pacifist march against violence, but it had a political fundamental basis. So he went into this experience. He went to this march, and when he came back home, he told me about this, and I was impressed. I was curious, and I thought, well, yeah, maybe politics is the way. Try to change the society through a political action, and not just live your life to amuse yourself. Try to do something for this society. That's what I thought. Don't be just a vain, stupid boy. Just get up and do something meaningful. So I also got involved into politics. So I began attending the meetings of some political groups who go for manifestations in the streets of Milan and shout slogans and moving in a certain direction in order to change the society. It was very much meant to improve the life conditions of workers and students. So I like that. It gave direction to life, it gave meaning to life, but most of this was from extreme left direction into politics. So it means Marxism, Leninism. Now I was already an atheist, so Marxism was atheic. So I like it. So about this, I like it, about this topic, about this idea. But then when I went into the study of Marxism, which is about economy and changing the economic side of society, then I didn't really like it. I didn't feel really at home in that kind of thought. And in that possibility to change the society that way. Moreover, my natural inclination was always artistic. I was always kind of a singer. So when I was a boy, I was very much interested in the pop music, in the music of my time. And I would be learning songs. I also began singing in a band. So that was my direction, to be an artist. And, Marxism has nothing to do with art, in my understanding. So it was not my natural inclination. So eventually I came into a conflict with Marxism. And I saw that the very good Marxists were kind of mathematicians, calculations. So the more I went into it, the less I like it. So there must be something for me. Eventually, I met another very interesting person. He was an artist. He was also from Salento. He was called Antonio. He was kind of a guru. He was a painter, very good painter, and a very sophisticated thinker. He had gone through all these political ideologies like Marxism, Leninism, and some others, anarchism. Yeah, that was also very present at the time. So he was kind of an anarchist, but mostly he was of the other different kind of philosophy, which was called situationismo. So that means according to situation. We could say situationism. Situationism, yes. It was kind of philosophy, which was above Marxism, and it was very much, no, I don't remember all the details of that philosophy, but I went into it and I went very deep into it. So much that I began talking with the very expert communists and Marxists who were the cream of the ideology. And they would be embarrassed talking to me about their idea and my idea. So Antonio gave me this kind of free direction above ideological conditioning. Situationism was very much this way. Find your freedom and be above schemes. So it was very good to free the mind from schemes and to, let's say, see reality the way it comes. And believe it or not, I am still in that kind of philosophy. Still, it influences my way of thinking and my way of approaching life. Even spirituality, I have turned it into this kind of philosophy. So,
So was this the turning point, this coming to know this situationism that eventually changed your life?
this was very important. Yes, this was very important because it took me above religion, it took me above ideologies, and really made me ready for experiencing directly something. So I began to believe that all the potential is in me and that I can realize anything I want if I believe in it, if I really apply to what I want to achieve. So I remember once I was in Amsterdam, and there was a group of Christians. I think they were called uh, the New Christians or followers of Jesus, something like this, the definition. So anyway, they were praying and playing music and dancing, a bit like the Hare Krishna used to do, but in a Christian way. So one of the girls, they would go around and talk to the people, trying to bring them into their doctrine, inspire them into their doctrine. So this girl came to me and she asked me, "Do you believe in God?" And I said, "Look, I believe that if there is a God, then I am that God. That's the only way I can accept it. If God is in me and I am in God, then yes, otherwise no." So that's how it began, my quest for something spiritual, which at the time I wouldn't call it spiritual, but it was a quest for truth. First through politics and then through this situationismo philosophy. So at some point, anyway, I began going into a crisis with existence, with life. I couldn't find peace anymore. I began seeing ugliness in me because of my inner conflicts and also in the people around me. So I went into a crisis because life didn't seem to have a meaning anymore. Something broke inside of me. So I didn't enjoy any more life. Before this, I was very joyous, very happy all the time, a singing person. After this, began to be a dark person,
But was there
looking at
something?
the dark side of life.
Was there something that provoked this in you, or did it just happen in a spontaneous way?
It just happened inside of me. I began having dark thoughts about life. I began having kind of depressing thoughts, and something broke inside of me. So, uh, watching life and people around me, I saw them so dark, I saw them so ugly, and I saw myself also ugly. I came into a conflict with myself and with life and with people. I didn't like the people anymore. I didn't like the society. I didn't like the way we were living. I didn't like the way I was living.
So what happened after that? How did you come out of this condition?
Yeah, so did I come out from this condition? From time to time, I would be chased by these thoughts. They would come into my mind and they would suffocate me, and I felt being pulled down, and I felt oppressed by them. So I wasn't enjoying life anymore.
And
It was
how old were you at this time?
I was 19.
19.
So how to find a solution to this? I was in Amsterdam at the time. So a friend of mine came from Milan, Ferruccio Arrigoni. And the first or second day he was there, he told me, "I have a book for you. I think it would be important. Try it, read it, see if you like it." So it was a book on Buddhism. It was a book on Buddhism, and I had gone through these ideologies, Marxism, situationismo philosophy, and was always missing something. What are we? Why are we here? What do we come? Where do we come from? Where will we go after that? These questions were not answered there. At this time, a friend of mine also invited me to go to the Hare Krishna temple. There was a small Hare Krishna temple in Amsterdam. So he told me, I've been there once. Let's go. Maybe you will like. So we went there, and there were these boys doing their dance and their ritual and puja, whatever, kirtan, whatever they call it, and dancing and chanting. And well, that impressed me. Impressed me because what was the religious practice I was used to? It was what was happening in the church. And I saw it so banal. All these ladies on Sundays going with their nice dresses, mostly to show their dress, much less to pray really with a heart to God. So so it's so superficial. And the involvement between the priest, the ritual that was happening, and the reaction of the people, it was nothing in a church to my eyes. But there I saw these boys and girls really giving their heart to it and going on for an hour dancing and chanting. And I thought, wow, my God, this is a spiritual practice. This is something that may bring results. It's not like in the church. It's something that maybe brings up, because I saw in their face something different. A joy, a light, which I didn't see in the church. So I thought maybe spiritual practice also may bring something. Then Ferruccio gave me this book on Buddhism at the same time. So I began reading this book on Buddhism. And it talked of law of karma, action and reaction. And that all the actions that we put into movement in this life, they are not going to have a reaction in this life. So we come to the end with many actions which didn't have a reaction as yet. So because of this and because of the desires that we take with us when we leave this body, we will have to be reborn. And it seemed to me so logic. So it's not just a lifetime. And because of what you do in a lifetime, you go to hell or paradise. No. It's an evolution which goes through so many lifetimes, starting from the mineral to the vegetable, to the insect, to the animal, to the man, to the angel, to the gods, and to the God. Wow, I said, this is logic. This is a meaning. This is acceptable. It gives purpose to life. So you improve and you keep growing. You keep evolving. There is a purpose in being a better human being. It's not that whatever you do, you anyway end up into nothing or into hell or whatever. No, whatever wisdom you acquire in this life, it's a treasure that you take with you and it will stay with you. And in the next lifetime, you keep improving and eventually you become divine. So this I liked. This gave me so many explanations about things which I could never explain.
So did you begin some spiritual practice according to Buddhist teachings, or what did you do with this new wisdom that you just acquired?
So what did I do? First of all, I had to get rid of my problem. Still, I was seized by these heavy thoughts from time to time. After reading this book on Buddhism, it was much less because I got some good teachings, some explanations about life, which gave me a boost, a hope. So it was much better after this. But yet, after some days, I was again seized by these thoughts. I had gone to eat somewhere something. Then I was sitting in a sofa, and these heavy thoughts again began gathering into my mind, and I began sinking in these in this dark atmosphere inside of myself, in this anguish. So again, I thought, oh my God, again, how do I get rid of this now? How do I get out of this? How do I throw out of myself these thoughts that won't bother me anymore? At that time, I also began reading some articles. There were some, uh, let's say, counterculture magazines published at the time in Italy. One was published by Valcarenghi that was called Re Nudo, the Naked King. And on this magazine, they would publish articles about people who had been in India, met gurus, done meditation, yoga, and wow, I was very, very attracted by this naturally. I thought it was something really great, something that would really give meaning to life. So, in one of these articles, there was a sentence which said, love is the force that moves everything. Love is something like, love is God, God is love, and love is the moving force of existence. Something like this. I don't remember exactly, but that was the meaning. So, this sentence came back into my while I was obsessed by these thoughts. At some point, I remember this sentence. It just popped into my head, into my mind. So wow, I felt good. As soon as this sentence entered into my memory, into my mind, I began feeling good. So I grabbed myself to this sentence like a saving force. And I began repeating it as a mantra. Love is the driving, love is everything, love is, and I felt better and better and better. So at some point, it was like in this sinking process which I was going through, it was like touching a spring that vroom, projected me into a state of consciousness in which I felt, first of all, I felt like in ecstasy. I felt so blissful and so much at peace. Such a peace came over me. From that turmoil, inner turmoil, such a peace. And in this peace, it was given to me like magnifying lenses by which I could see life in such a detailed way, like I had never seen before, not even dreamed of before. So I could see so many details of life which I never thought about. And I could see that what I thought to be important in life up to that point was totally important. And that was really important, and which was the meaning of life and the purpose of life. It was to realize truth. To me, it was not realize God. It was realize truth. And that the purpose of my life was to realize this truth. And
So this, I imagine, like you said, this sentence, like love is the moving force that makes move everything. Love is everything. Like it, the meaning of it entered into your body and swept away all the
darkness.
anxiety, the darkness, this kind of anguished feeling within you, like medicine, like yes, like as you said, like touching a spring, like a spontaneous spiritual enlightenment.
Well, I didn't know the word enlightenment at the time. So I called it a spiritual awakening. But it was really my first enlightenment. And it was, I call it spiritual awakening or enlightenment. And this condition, this ecstasy which I experienced there, stayed with me and it lasted for hours. Eventually, of course, I went to sleep that night. I woke up in the next morning and I had very clear determination about what to do. So I thought, my life, which has been up to now, is not going to be my life anymore. So I'm going to change radically, and I'm going to study this topic and go deep into it, practice, and bring back and keep this experience as much as I can. So gradually this experience faded away more and more, but the memory of it stayed with me, was so strong, and I would have given my life to bring back this experience. So as I said, I was in Amsterdam. I told my friends, I was there with some 10 of my friends, 10, 12 of them, and I was really like the leader of the situation. So I told my friends, look, I I don't intend to stay here anymore. I have no interest in staying here anymore. If you want to stay, it's up to you, but I'm going back to Milan. I have no purpose in staying here anymore. Just being here and fooling around like this is not my purpose anymore. So I took a train and I went back to Italy. And I remember when I reached the station, metro station of Cernusco sul Naviglio, where I was living, my brother was there. So he saw me coming. He didn't know I was coming. He was just there.
Well, at the time there were no mobile phones and
No,
life was
nobody
totally
knew that I
different.
was coming back home. So
So you just bump into your brother.
yes, I bumped into him, and so he was very happy to see me. Of course, we hadn't seen each other for many, many months. He had been in Greece, and I had been traveling here and there. And so we talked. How are you? He told me about his experiences, what he had gone through in those months, where he was. And I told him about myself. And I remember telling him exactly at some point, I said, do you understand? I seen God face to face. That's what has happened to me. Because what was he interested about? How are you doing? Who is your girlfriend? Now, how many girls you have? And what are you doing? That was his interest. He thought that I was the same Sirio, but I was totally changed. So at some point I shouted into his face, do you understand? I seen God face to face. I don't know how much he understood of it, but he was very impressed. And he saw I was totally changed. I didn't go fool around with my friends anymore. I just stayed home. I went to Milan. I bought some 13 books about yoga, Buddhism, Indian philosophy, Aurobindo, the synthesis of yoga. I went back home, and from then on, I just kept studying these books. And whichever technique I found in them, I just put it into action, practice, in order to bring back that experience. So I began doing yoga, pranayama, very intense, and meditation, according to the techniques which I would found to be described in these books. So I understood where is the enemy here. I never had back that experience of anguish and being pulled down by heavy thoughts, but I saw what a big wall and thick wall the mind is. These thoughts that you don't want them, but they appear into your screen, the screen of your mind, and they don't give you peace. And they don't let you go through. Because I knew at that point that you had to go through the wall of mind in order to reach that ecstasy, that bliss. So my intention was always from that point on to break through the wall of the mind. So meditation techniques, I applied them. Yoga, I used pranayama, that breathing exercises, also to quiet the mind and break through to have that experience.
And did you practice by yourself at home alone, or did you have...
All alone.
So you didn't have friends who joined you in this?
In the beginning, they were all politically oriented still, either in the situationista philosophy or Marxism or anarchism. There was the philosophies, those were the philosophies which were dominating among their minds. So talking about God to them, they were all atheists. Are you crazy? What happened to you? Talk about God. There is no God. You yourself were so convinced that there is no God, and now you talk about God. So, so they took me to be crazy. They thought I had gone a bit mad, you know. But gradually, they felt that that I was not crazy. They saw that I was very wise, that I was very, very smart,
You were very serious.
that I was very serio, you know.
Yes, Syria has become very serious.
Yeah. So they talked to me, you know. I talked to them, and they talked to me, and we had confrontation, ideological confrontation, and they saw that I was very, very intelligent, very smart, and what I said had a meaning, had a sense, and that experience I had really changed the course of my life and the trend of my thoughts and my thinking. So after some time, I saw somebody with a book on Buddhism, somebody on a book on yoga, some kind of Indian philosophy. So they all got into this, you know. There were some 15 of us. They all got into this. And the next great experience I had, it was how it happened. On those days came out this movie, Brother Sun and Sister Moon, about the life of Saint Francis of Assisi. So I was told that, look, in Prima Visione, First Vision in Milan, there is going to be given out this movie. Maybe we go see it. Might be interesting. So since I was becoming interested in spiritual practice and holy people, so I thought, okay, St. Francis, let's go to see this movie. So we went to see this movie, and as soon as they began to project the first images of the movie, was when St. Francis goes to the war and eventually comes back sick with fever and broken down, and then he tries to find his way also, which was what I was doing at the time, trying to find my way. So I became so identified with him that it moved me so deeply. I began weeping after 5-10 minutes of the beginning of the movie, and up to the end, 2 hours, I couldn't stop. I had never wept like this in my life. I didn't know what was weeping, I could say, unless I felt a lot of pain. But I never wept like that for my whole life. Maybe when I got a beating from my father when I was a kid, sometimes. But not that much, and not with that intense emotion. I would have liked to stop because I felt like being foolish, but I couldn't stop it. So until the end, I went on weeping and weeping and weeping. And this weeping, like Master Kripa used to say, tears are the detergent of the soul. It really washed my soul clean. And when I came out from that movie, from the cinema, I was in an ecstasy and in an intoxication that I had never experienced before. That experience which I had like a month or two before, it was ecstasy. But this was intoxication. I felt so divinely intoxicated, which no wine could give. So that was the other next great experience I had just by watching this movie.
In the meantime, I checked it that Franco Zeffirelli.
Zeffirelli, that's right.
Yes, the Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon.
Yes.
By Zeffirelli. So, and what was the feeling, the emotion within you? That do you remember that, or could you put into words that created this urge to cry?
No, it was just the images, this emotion, sensation, that the images which were projected on the screen gave to me. It was identification, immedesimazione with this St. Francis. I felt like becoming one with him and experiencing all what he was experiencing. It was just this. So I became so identified with this person that was being acted on the screen that I felt like being him. And And so I was totally washed away by these tears and this weeping, and I felt so clean after this watching this movie that I was amazed.
Beautiful experience, as you
Yeah.
described. Then one gets the desire to watch this movie right away. Gets curious.
It
So,
doesn't work with everybody in the same way.
well, I understand. Maybe they don't play it anymore in cinemas.
No, for sure. You may see it on YouTube or.
And so, what happened to you after that? What direction did you take?
After this,
Because now at this point, I see that you went through several experiences of your life, and every experience that came to you, then eventually you refused it because it didn't work for you. And then you reached at the age of 19 like a crisis point, which resulted into like a, as we said, a spontaneous spiritual awakening, enlightenment. And then you got a new scope, a new purpose in life to realize truth. And then you began to practice meditation, pranayama, yoga. So you began to do by yourself a spiritual practice. Furthermore, you inspired all your friends to join you in this endeavor, realizing truth. But then this fantastic experience came of feeling so intoxicated by this kind of divine love that the story of Saint Francis transmitted to you. So, what did you do with all this?
well, the next idea was I became very fond of St. Francis at that point. So I tried to study his life, and I got books on his life. And there is Franciscan literature. It's a book of maybe 1,000 pages, bigger than the Bible, or at least like the Bible. And Letteratura Francescana. So this book contains all the teachings of St. Francis and also the teachings and the life stories of his main disciples. And what was happening in the order of St. Francis after he began gathering around himself disciples, followers. So all of this is told in this book. So I got this book and I began reading it. There is also a shorter version which is called I fioretti di San Francesco, like the small flowers of St. Francis, which are all anecdotes, stories about his life and teachings. So I got this and I began reading it. And the next thing I felt like doing it was to go to Assisi, because St. Francis was born and lived in Assisi. All these stories about his life happened in Assisi, or most of them, the most important. So I thought, next thing is going to Assisi. So I convinced all my friends, well, 5, we were 5 in a car. We go to Assisi this summer and feel the spirit, the presence of St. Francis. So we went to Assisi, and as it has always happened, even afterwards, or right from the very first time I went, as soon as I got there, I plugged in with his spirit, with his energy. You have been there with me. You saw how I get in in tune with this when I go there. So
Yes, and especially at his tomb, is very strongly felt this kind of presence. I've
yes,
seen you meditating there.
yes, there are a few places. The tomb, which is in the Cathedral of St. Francis in the middle of Assisi, then San Damiano, where he had his first vision of Christ, in which he told him, "You rebuild my church," and where the Clarisse, means the followers of Chiara, his female counterpart, um, used to live. La Porziuncola, which was eventually another small church out of Assisi, which he rebuilt and where his order developed around, building huts all around this small church and living there. So all these places and the carceri, the jays, which are up going to the Monte Subasio, uh, also that these are places which have a very special and strong energy. So all these places where I go to visit, when I go to visit them, I plug in with His holy presence, and I feel really uplifted always. So the very first time I went, this was very strong. This I really felt this presence, and I felt connected with His spirit, and I felt very good, really.
And did this bring back to you towards religion, or did you remain on the free spiritual side? Which I
No,
mean, free from religion.
no, to religions, to religion, I could never go back. I didn't become a Buddhist, even if I read that book. I didn't become a Hindu, even if I liked the Hare Krishna, what the way they were doing their spiritual practice, and even if I met Swami Prabhupada, he didn't impress me. I don't want to blame him, or I don't want to say it was nothing, but
It was not your story.
was not my story. So I didn't connect with him in any special way. I can say that the comparison between meeting with him and meeting with Kirpal Singh 1 year later, it was from 1 to 100, the intensity. So that's how it was for me. For others, might have been totally different. Anyway, after visiting Assisi and having this inspiration to keep moving on in this my spiritual direction, my spiritual practice, what I invented, that I wanted to create a community of seekers of truth. So how to do it? We have to get a place. So I convinced my friends to get a place and go live together in a community way, and see and practice and see what happens.
Like the Franciscans.
Yes, like so I convinced some of my friends. We rented a house outside of the town where I was living, which was Cernusco su Naviglio, in the outskirts, and there were toilet to bring three rather big rooms, and I and two more went to live there permanently. Myself, Claudio Zaini, if I'm not mistaken, and Osvaldo Valcamonico. So we went to live there, and the other friends, they would come, they would come in the evening, they would come in the afternoon, and we would get up in the morning.
So it was like a spiritual center
Yes, it was like my first ashram experience.
gathering.
Yes. So in the morning, I got up, did yoga, meditation, and we kept the place very clean, very nice. We were listening to nice music, and some were going to work. I didn't work at the time, and but didn't last much, because this began in September, after coming back from this pilgrimage to Assisi. Beginning of September, we took this place, we arranged it, settled it, and we went to live there. And 12th of October, my father, age 62, died of a heart attack. So my mother was very desperate. She really lost her mind. She was so attached to her husband. And she would have liked to die with him. She would have gone into the grave, coffin and grave with him. She wanted to jump into it.
Poor one.
And so my mother told me, look, now, we still had properties in South Italy, like olive orchards. And my father, every autumn, would go to pick up the olives and make the oil and bring it to Milan for us. So now he died. All my other brothers were busy working. So she told me, you should go now. Please, you go. Now you obey. Father cannot go because he's no more. I cannot go. So you go. So I said, okay, Mom, I go. So I took leave of my friends. I told them, please take care of this place, keep it nice, keep it the way we were keeping it up to now. I'll be back in some time, like a month and a half. So I went to Salento, to Lecce. I stayed there for a month and a half, up to Christmas, from, let's say, beginning of October, after my father died, middle of October, to almost Christmas. So almost a month and a half. And I was all alone. I got some people to help picking up the olives, ladies, and I spent a lot of time alone. So I began pondering over everything that had happened to me during this year, 1972, that experience in Amsterdam, this practice of yoga and meditation, this St. Francis story, this community which we had started, to see how authentic this experience was for me, really pondering over and trying to feel, are you aware or where you are going, where you are directing your life? You want to go on a spiritual quest. You want to go on a quest for truth. Are you ready for it? Are you ready to give your full life to it? Or you want to be like everybody? So this was very much my, let's say, my contemplation, my meditation at the time, pondering over this, which direction you really want to give to your life. Be true to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to others. You try to really understand what you want. Don't be fake. I spent some time with my cousin. I had a cousin, girl, and my uncle and my aunt were living like 7 kilometers from the town where I was living at the time, where we had our house. So I was going very often in the evening to spend time with them. They would invite me to go eat with them. And then I would talk with this, my cousin, and I would tell her about my philosophical convictions at the time. And she was very impressed that this boy so young is having in his head these high thoughts, about life. And so she was the only person with whom I was talking really about my quest. And so I really became determined. I took the total conviction of moving my life in this direction. So much that when eventually at the end of December I went back to Milan, and I went back to this, I didn't go back to live in that community anymore, because my mom would have not suffered it, would have not accepted. She was too much suffering because of my father's death. So I didn't want to give her further pain. So I stayed home, but I would go every day, very often to the place. But when I went back anyway, I saw that it was totally changed. It had become so messy, so not taken care anymore, and I didn't like it anymore. So I didn't go back to live there, and by and by I withdrew from that situation, which was deteriorated, completely deteriorated from the purpose which I had given to it. So I didn't like it anymore. Eventually, these boys who were living there at the time, they decided to move some other place. They took another place. They joined with some other people who were not of my convictions, my quest, interested in my quest, let's say. They were more musically oriented, making music, rock music. That was the purpose. There was a band there, and they were making music. So I withdrew more and more. And once, when I went to visit this place, which they took after, there was an Englishman there who had just come back from England, from India. So I talk with him and I talk about my experiences and what I was going through, what my interest was, and I wanted to go to India, and I wanted to go to Pondicherry because I read the Synthesis of Yoga of Aurobindo, and I was very attracted by his teachings. So I told him I would like to go to India and go to Pondicherry, and he told me, after listening and sharing also from his experience, he told me, yes, I think you should go to India, and I'm sure that you will find your way there. So being told this by a man who had been in India for a long time, for many months, I was encouraged and I decided, because at this point all my friends had become kind of philosophers. They all knew everything. You talk with any of them, they were expert in Buddhism, they were expert in Hinduism, they knew everything about everything, you know. But their life was not changed a bit. It was messy as it was before. They were, I mean, just same, nothing had changed, but their head was full of ideas now, philosophical ideas. So I thought, we are getting nowhere here. They haven't changed a bit, but they think they know everything. So you know what I do? I just get out of it and go to India. So I went to India, and then maybe we continue next time.
So yes, I also just wanted to propose that maybe it's enough for now, because I know that we could go on talking about these topics for hours. I mean, you have so much things to tell us, and I could just listen to you all the time, which is very nice. So, thank you for sharing this part of your life story with us, which I found really interesting, really inspiring, and I much look forward to hear what comes next. And just as I was listening to you, it came to me like this story up to this point. As you described, it was like a full circle, like 360 degrees. That as you became a young man, you really went deep into all the directions of life to examine which is meant for you, to take up that direction which really fits you. So it's very interesting that you started from a Christian Catholic background, and from that you went to atheism, then from that to politics, communism, anarchism, and then going above it through situationism, and then refusing even that in the end, and and having this experience of the spontaneous spiritual enlightenment, this awakening, which brought you to spirituality. So it's very interesting. And then, in the end, through this spiritual side of life, which you experienced through your important life event, then coming to know the life of Saint Francis, it again added something very valuable to this your spiritual quest, and it inspired you to, as a to say like a summary of all these things. You created this spiritual community, and you inspired all your friends first to be atheist with you, then to be communist, anarchist, situationist, then spiritual. So it's incredible. Then you took the lead, and that how you inspired them to change. But it was very nice as you described it. Nothing changed, and so I can't wait to hear the continuation of your story, that you reached to this point, and then what happened next to you when you went to India. And also, I would like to take the chance to wish you happy birthday. As you said in the beginning, you were born on the 12th of May, so these days you celebrated your 71st birthday, birth anniversary. And those who listen to us will come to know that Master Sirio, as he said, he was always a singer and artist, and that he ever remained, I know it. So I would like to ask you to sing a song to us. And before the song, I would like to to read the translation of it in English because this song is written in Italian. So the title of the song is I was born in the month of roses. I was born in the month of roses, eager to pass beyond the human things. The sublime divine love at the center of my heart, the desire for the essence that gives purpose to my existence, the will to share with my sisters and brothers the sublime experiences granted me by the divine in the most beautiful moments, the goodness in the heart that wants to support the spirit of the one who is knocked down and crushed by the pain. And I got busy and strive to be able to approach the divine state coveted by all the mystics, the divine concert of all the beautiful souls that live in his garden, blessed as the stars in heaven. He I've been seeking, for him my heart I tormented. So much I yearned, so much I craved, that at last he showed himself to me. My thirst was satisfied, my hunger was appeased. So much grace he gave me, that all of my being is flooded by him. I was born in the month of roses, eager to pass beyond the human things. May 2005.
Sono nato nel mese delle rose, bramoso di passare oltre le umane cose. Sono nato nel mese delle rose, bramoso di passare oltre le umane cose. Il sublime e divino amore al centro del mio cuore, l'anelito dell'essenza che dà scopo a questa mia esistenza. L'anelito dell'essenza che dà scopo a questa mia esistenza. Il desiderio di condividere con le mie sorelle e fratelli quanto di grandioso il divino mi ha donato nei momenti più belli. Quanto di grandioso il divino mi ha donato nei momenti più belli. Sono nato nel mese delle rose, bramoso di passare oltre le umane cose. La bontà nel cuore che vuole sorreggere lo spirito. La bontà nel cuore che vuole sorreggere lo spirito di chi è abbattuto e schiacciato dal dolore, di chi è abbattuto e schiacciato dal dolore. E mi sono impegnato e adoperato per riuscire ad accostarmi. E mi sono impegnato e adoperato per riuscire ad accostarmi a quel divino stato da tutti mistici agognato. divino stato da tutti i mistici agognato. Sono nato nel mese delle rose, bramoso di passare oltre le umane cose. Il divino consorte di tutte le anime belle, il divino consorte di tutte le anime belle, che nel suo giardino vivon beate come in cielo le stelle, che nel suo giardino vivon beate come in cielo le stelle. Lui ho cercato, per lui il cuore mi sono straziato. Lui ho cercato, per lui il cuore mi sono straziato. Tanto l'ho desiderato, tanto smaniato, che infine mi si è mostrato. Tanto l'ho desiderato, tanto smaniato, che infine mi si è mostrato. Sono nato nel mese delle rose, bramoso di passare oltre le umane cose. Lui ho cercato, per lui il cuore mi sono straziato. Lui ho cercato, per lui il cuore mi sono straziato. Tanto l'ho desiderato, tanto smaniato, che infine mi si è mostrato. Tanto l'ho desiderato, tanto smaniato, che infine mi si è mostrato. Appagato alla mia sete, soddisfatto alla mia fame. Appagato alla mia sete, soddisfatto alla mia fame. Tanta grazia mi ha donato, che tutto l'essere di lui inondato. Tanta grazia mi ha donato, che tutto l'essere di lui inondato. Sono nato nel mese delle rose, bramoso di passare oltre le umane cose. Sono nato nel mese delle rose, bramoso di passare oltre le umane cose. Oh, 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 oh,
Thank you for listening. The next episode comes after 2 weeks about Master Sirio's adventurous trip to India and his amazing encounter with Master Kirpal. God bless you all.